Day Transformers Junkie! Hello, yes. Finally do I get around to my reflections video on Rollout Roll Call, which happened last weekend. Yeah, it's been a week. I've got a lot of stuff to get through. Some fairly lengthy, well, one lengthy video clip of me walking around the event, and obviously I've got some notes down of what I got up to while I was out. You've already seen my toy haul from the event, so there's no point in going over the plastic again. I'll be doing that at the end of the month with my end of month toy haul. But yeah, let's get on with talking about the event. Yeah, so I went to Rollout Roll Call last year, and I went down on the Sunday only, and it was, as it was my second only convention, because I'd been to Auto Assembly previously, it's a different I was really surprised on how different the event was compared to, you know, Auto Assembly, because it's a lot more bijou and compact. And I was expecting there to be, you know, loads of YouTubers there, and as it happened last year, there wasn't. But this year was different. Last year I was kind of disappointed by it, but this year I understood what the event was about and had high expectations of you know, it being a far better event. And I was also attending the weekend. I was attending both days rather than just the Sunday, so I would get the full experience going on. So, loaded my car up, went down Saturday morning. Took me about 2 hours to drive down from where I live down to Southampton. It's fairly straightforward. It's M40, A34, M3, A33, Southampton. It's quite simple and straightforward to get to. Obviously, it's held at the Dury's Inn, which is this huge high-rise hotel in the middle of a traffic island, just off the town centre. Parking, they don't have any parking of their own. They have some like pay and display car parks that are round about. There is an underground car park underneath, but when I got there, it was all you know, shuttered up. Couldn't get in there. There's big signs up saying it was all full, so that was disappointing. Also, there's a walkway which goes through a subway and then comes out in a stairwell in the middle of the where the hotel is. And that was out of action, so that was a bit of a bummer. Anyway, so I parked my car around the corner, and I was a bit worried about leaving it overnight in a pay and display car park just off Southampton town centre. So I backed the boot of the car right up to the wall, and then I went under the bonnet and I immobilised it by yanking the fuel injection relay out. So if anybody tried to steal it, they'd have a job. So yeah, walked around to the building. As I was coming round to the front, there was a bunch of guys outside puffing away on cigarettes and those e-cigs, and Bisto Yeti was there, so I greeted him. Hello, Bisto. And then we went inside and sat down, had a bit of a chat, and then when it was time to go in, to make our way upstairs to you know, queue up for the event, it was we went up. The event doesn't open till 10 o'clock. So we had a bit of time to kill, and obviously there was a few people, you know, coming in and having a mingle and a chat, which was great. And then we went upstairs, and we was towards the front of the queue, me and Bisto, for when the event opened proper at 10 o'clock. While we was waiting for the last few minutes, there was a hurried activity between the traders, getting their stands all set up ready in the rooms. But then at 10 o'clock, we all went and got our pass. If you'd got there the night before and got your pass, you could just go straight in. But, obviously I went and got my pass. And the pass on the back has got a map of the rooms, the suites where all the various events and dealers are at. And then you've got your itinerary for the panels, which was held in a room which was just off to one side. Now, I had full intention of doing a number of panels this weekend, because there was a couple of panels. Well, I did a few panels at Auto Assembly, but there was some panels at Rollout Roll Call well, I didn't do any panels at Rollout Roll Call last year, and so I wanted to make use of that facility this time. But first things first, went in, made my first purchase, which was TFCC Chrome Dome, and then I got Combiner Wars Mirage, and then I did my first couple of purchases. Was walking around, meeting and greeting various people. A lot more YouTubers this time round. I mean, you've got Few Adams, who's broke his duck on auto assembly and now's hooked on convention. So he come down for the weekend. Ben Davison of Ben's Collectibles. He was making his last public appearance before he emigrates to Canada. Then you had Bisto Yeti was there. Dave Shotton, Dave Transformers Junkie. He turned up a little later along with Stuart Nicholson. And who else was there? Yeah, SMS number 1 was there. Luffy, Excellion Brad, Excellion XLR. So there was a good crowd of TFYTC members out and about, and it was great. We were just wandering around, looking at the various stalls, rummaging through the boxes full of loose figures, and looking at the stuff on the racks, the new stuff. Being a multiple event, you've got stalls selling stuff for 3 different genres of toys. You've got Transformers, you've got G.I. Joe, and Masters of the Universe. So if you're into any of those things, then you was well catered for. There was mountains of stuff. So yeah, did my first purchases, and then I went into around about midday. Went into the first panel, which was the designing Transformers with Emilio Santalucia. And that was quite a popular panel. I mean, most people went in for that one, and it was quite fascinating because he was going into the process of how toys are designed. But him being an aesthetic designer, he actually designs the look of the toy rather than the engineering. And there's been times where he was showing us how he was instrumental in designing such and such toys, like the this guy. He was responsible for designing this guy. And obviously went into the processes involved in getting the look of it. And another character that he had a hand in designing, Skybite. And yeah, that was quite fascinating. Obviously, he wasn't responsible for the engineering on the toys. He was responsible on the aesthetic, the design choices that were made to make the look of the toy. But it was great to hear his side of how the processes worked in designing a toy, and that was really good. So it came out of that, and then it was like the midday session, wandering around, buying more stuff, talking to more people. Then I think it was about this time that I did a little walk around with my camera, just to give you the lay of the land. So here's a clip. It goes on for about 6 minutes 45 seconds, but I did a walk around the whole event, just so as you can get lay of the land and see the sort of stuff that was about. Back of Excellion's head. Alright. So I'm just doing a walk around, just to do my video.
See you later. I think the original rabbits are so good. There's nowhere to go.
Non mi puoi tenere proprio fuori a
We need some space.
You know you won't find something going, oh, they were so lovely.
I watch that sometimes.
Not often enough to make it work out of bed every day.
No. Go on.
Yeah?
Yeah, we go. Now
What's
this
the
one.
difference between him and the one I got you? I've just got you now.
Enough for shaking the champagne.
That's fine. Some of them I have written that
Masterpiece of Goldbug. Masterpiece Blue Streak, the blue on it. I bought the Decepticon version of Scoop.
See,
I also bought a whole bunch of weapons off the pole. Oh my god, several botcon bits and a nice poster next door. And I've reached my limit. I've got 40 quid in my pocket, food, going out tonight and getting home tomorrow. That's it. I'm done. Take it all back. How long does it take around?
Why not?
What is it?
No. You really
He said, 20 quid, that's a good price. Yes, it is. Oh, here we go. I love it.
I've got a reissue.
Yeah, and then you get it if it's a really good remaster play. No, that's really good.
Can you see it when I can? Oh yeah.
Someone's bought a streak. That's
That's a pretty good price.
That was a good price, yeah.
Well, just stay tuned about come back now with more information.
Sorry, we'll start feeling
Last but not least, sorry.
Hey, convoy, awesome!
Yeah, exclamation mark. Perfect, thank you.
Should we go and see if we can make that?
Yeah, I think it's more. Yeah. And I mean, that Dinobot I love the video of Callum's hustle, just like, that's when he started ripping into it.
Oh,
I'm fairly certain that, like, if JP colours pieces, for instance, JP gets JP
My hat's in there, dude, so. But anyway, right.
We'll see you later. collectors.
Right.
I will get the money to you as soon as possible. Oh, of course I'm going to hug it. I mean, he's gorgeous, he is. I mean, look at the tight buns of steel on that room. No comment. But yeah, like I said, get the money to you as soon as
So yeah, you've seen you've seen that clip. That's what the event is about. It's quite small, very compact, but it kept the people, you know, close together. It wasn't crowded at all at any time. Didn't feel like it was, you know, heaving or anything. You know, it wasn't standing room only or anything like that. There was, you know, plenty of room to walk about. Sometimes when you're going in through the door, there'd be a few people standing there, especially if the, you know, like the room where you had the toy foos table. They had a big, massive table full of loose Transformer figures just inside the door, so people would be standing there looking at them. As when you're coming through the door, you'd have to sort of weave your way through them to get to the other stalls at the back. So yeah, and the traders that were there on the Saturday, you had the Space Bridge, you had Indie Man Toys, you had Toy Foo, all the cool stuff, bric-a-bracs, me and Max love toys, and Joker's Toy Box. So they were and there was a few other independent sellers there as well. So there was plenty of, you know, scope of things to buy, as you saw from my haul video. So then time moved on. About 2 o'clock, went into the next panel, which was the third party panel. Now, I went in there expecting it to be like a third party panel, and lots of pictures and photographs of up and coming reveals of up and coming third party products, third party, you know, transforming toys. It wasn't. It was basically this new company. I can't remember the name of the company, but they're developing this new intellectual property called Unrustable Bastards, which is kind of a mixture between, you know, action figures and Transformers, where they have these little action figure dudes which transform into like a chess piece, which then goes into this robot, which then transforms into a motorcycle, and they're kind of a motorcycle gang on an alien planet. And then there's another rival motorcycle gang that they're fighting against, and then there's these, you know, intergalactic enforcers that are, you know, trying to, you know, keep the peace. And they were just putting their spiel across about what their new, you know, product that they were developing was, and giving us an idea of what it would look like, and what the world, you know, surrounding it. But I felt sort of shortchanged by this, because I went in there expecting it to be a picture show of new, you know, third party products, and it wasn't. It was a one-off show and tell for this one company, which was kind of disappointing. I mean, their stuff looks interesting, but they kind of want a Kickstarter campaign to get the money to get it off the ground, like so many of these other companies do. And it was all right. The only thing that really made it worthwhile going in was at the end you had this this guy step up who was a Star Wars collector, and he was going on about how he loves to collect Admiral Akbar figures. And the video is on YouTube. Fuse put a link to it on his channel, so go check out his video, and you can click on the link and then you can watch it. And it was just hilariously funny. He was so dry and, you know, so serious about this collecting habit he's got. And it was just, oh, you had to be there to see it. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, so went out in the afternoon, walked around, went into the room where the guests, artists were, and I had a chat with Chris Carter, because he was one of the guys responsible for the Loose Cannon comics. I was having a quick look and a quick chat with him, and kind of liked the look of his stuff, but at the time I didn't want to commit to buying anything off him, because, you know, there's more toys to buy. So I said to him, I said, well, maybe later on when I've got a bit, you know, towards the end, if I've got a bit of cash left over, I might come and see you again. So yeah, I walked around and got some photos of the figures that was in the glass case for the TFCC stand. And of course they've got this mock-up of Impactor. It was a hand-painted representation of what the figure will look like when it's completed. The head sculpt on it is a low-res 3D printer version of the final head sculpt, but it does look, in the flesh, it looked really good. The paint was a bit chunky on it, but it really does suit, those colours really do suit that mould, and it does look like Impactor. So it's a good reason to get involved with the TFCC, Transformers Collectors Club. So moving on, speaking of Transformers Collectors Club, the next panel that I went to was the one at 4 o'clock, which was Pete Sinclair from the TFCC, and again the room was absolutely packed for this one. Everybody who was anybody was in that room to watch this guy, and he went on about the TFCC and the figures, that how they come about deciding what figures they're going to do, and they had these pictures of these figures that didn't quite make it, not to be a bunch of figures that they were going to do, but for whatever reason they got cancelled, and there were some amazing ones in there. I mean, there was classic Cyclonus done up as Brainstorm. That was probably one of my favourites out of that bunch. And yeah, and then they did the reveal of the Dawn of Tripredacus Ravage, which was a repaint of Combiner Wars figure in black with a Ravage head sculpt on it. They had that to show, which was quite cool, and we had a unique exclusive on that ahead of America, only by a few minutes, but that was great. So that was splashed all over the internet as well after the event, and after that was about 5 o'clock, and then they had the cosplay, which I was a bit late getting into, so I missed it. So yeah, that was that. I then went out and had me lunch, went and get some dinner. I went down the burger joint down the road and had the burger was alright, but the chips were stringy and a bit soggy, so I only ate some of it and binned the rest. And then it was pub. So a bunch of guys went down the pub. There's this pub that's a short walk from the hotel called the Alexandra, which is a very geek-friendly pub, shall we say. You go in there and there's loads of, above the bar there's a big shelf with loads of toys and action figures on it, and they've got like a little room in the back that goes out to the beer garden where they've got a bunch of old vintage computer game machines, like a SNES, an N64, was it Sega Saturn, and a PS2 and a PS3, and they got games running on them, so you could play the games. And the guys got their drinks, and then they spread out into the beer garden, and then a bunch of us sat down at these games and started playing them, and that's when I took this picture. Now, how many YouTubers can you spot in this picture? Just name all the big name, TFYTC members in this, all in one group, all in one small area, just watching, playing these vintage video games. Now, you also had Few Adams and Brad Excellion XLR sat down playing GoldenEye on the N64. Now, they'd had a few drinks, and they started drunken bawling Bond themes. And just so happened to get a video clip of it. So check this out.
Just bad controls. Loser has to sleep with Grace Jones.
great. It was a good giggle in the pub. I mean, we went into the pub garden and sat down and were just chatting about stuff. And it was quite cold. It was quite a cold evening. Most people had just come straight from the convention in t-shirts, so they were feeling the cold. And then we sort of migrated into the pub, but it was so loud and you couldn't hear yourself talk. And then we went back outside again. And it was a good night out. It was a good laugh. You know, a few the bar was doing these themed Star Wars drinks, and a lot of people were buying the Yoda, which was a bright green pint, and it had all sorts of stuff in it, and quite a few people was down in those. So yeah, it was a really good night out. I went with a group of guys back to the hotel just after, I think it was about 1:15, something like that. And then we went to bed, and fast forward to the Sunday. So Sunday morning, I had a few things I had in mind that I wanted to get that I'd seen the night before. There was a couple of figures on the toy food table that I wanted to pick up. Most notably the United Wheeljack, and I got him. And then after me first purchase in the morning, I went into another panel at 11 o'clock, which was the lesser cartoons of the 1980s. And that was quite interesting because I collect Transformers, but I also collect, you know, ready control cars. But I also collect cartoons. I've got a huge collection of cartoons on video and DVD in my room that I've collected over the years. Most of them I've sort of taped off the telly, but you know, the like CGI movies, I've got pretty much most of the CGI cartoon films. You know, like, you know, Disney, Pixar, Blue Sky, DreamWorks, and all that lot. I've got all those films, and I'm really into that. And some of these cartoon series that they showed on the screens, some of them I'd never heard of, and some of them I had. And it was quite interesting. It was hosted by that guy who did the Star Wars Admiral Akbar thing the day before, but he was being serious this time. And but yeah, it was kind of interesting. Remembering these old cartoon series that I used to watch when I was a kid. So yeah, came out of that about midday-ish and started wandering around the stalls, talking to people, buying more stuff. And this is when I went back to Chris Carter, and I said, right, let's give us a bunch of your comics. So I mentioned these in my haul video. I bought the Loose Cannon comics. So I have read them all now. This one, dime a dozen. This one's really good. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, they go on from each other, and this one is a homage to Aliens. It's there's so many Aliens references in this one. It's unreal. And that one, and that one, and that one, and yeah. So I've read them, and I think I will be getting some more of these as time goes on. If I see Chris Carter at conventions again, which I no doubt will, if he's got any new issues, I'll be sure to pick them up. I'm starting to get into buying my comics now, because after getting that big lot of IDW comics off Pred, I've read those, and I've recently bought some more issues of More Than Meets the Eye and Windblade, IDW Windblade. So yeah. And while I was buying comics, I went over and got one of these from Ed Peary. But as he was there, I got him and Liam Shalhoub to sign the comics. And I got a couple of pictures here of them doing just that. And then I remembered I had bought something for Santa Lucia to sign for me, and it was this Spotlight Blaster, because I got this again in the first comic lot that I bought, and I realised, hang on a minute, the art in this was done by Emiliano, so I took this along and got him to sign it, which you can see here. And yeah, so got some stuff signed after all. Then it was the 2 o'clock, and it was the 3 Men and Some Plastic, I think it was called. 3 Men and a Little Plastic panel with SMS number 1, Ben's Collectibles and Few Adams. And they were just sat down just talking about how they started up on YouTube and how they do their reviews, and just giving an insight into what it's like to be a Transformers YouTube reviewer on YouTube and be a bit good at it. So yeah, that was great. And they bought some toys along. I mean, Ben had brought along his DX9 carry, and he'd also got a pre-production sample of DX9's Tyrant, their Galvatron homage, and he was showing that to people. And there's also some third-party bots that got flung about. There was this big alphabet combiner that Ben had bought, which looked absolutely atrocious. There's a picture of it here. And yeah, it was a great panel. The guys were trying to record it, various like multi-camera action, but but all their cameras died, so they didn't manage to get it all, apart from the audio, which is a bit of a shame. But like I said, somebody might try and throw it out as a podcast. But it was a good little chat, and again, interesting to see these guys in person, talking about what they do. And then it was after that there was another panel which. The other Transformers G.I. Joe Collectors Club round table with Pete Sinclair, which a lot of people went into, and I had my last few quid of money, so I went around, picked up a few little last minute things, and wanted to say goodbye to the guys, but as most of them were in the panel, I wasn't able to to speak to them. So those people that I did see, I said my goodbyes and made my way home. It was a fantastic event. Way better than this event last year. Rollout Roll Call is a different flavour of convention to Auto Assembly or TF Nation, as it's going to be next year. It's a lot more compact. It's a much more snuggly and homely. You can always find people who just wander around through the rooms, and unless they've gone back to their hotel room, the people are always there. It wasn't crowded. Everybody's friendly, plenty of dealers to talk to, and the guest artists were ever so accommodating, would talk to you and sign whatever you wanted. It was fantastic. So I can highly recommend, if you haven't been to Rollout Roll Call, give it a shout next year. It's a fantastic event, definitely worth going to. If you got any doubts about it, it's really a fantastic thing to do. Anyway, that's me for now. I'll put a gallery at the end of this video of some of the shots that I took throughout the weekend. But hope you've enjoyed this little video, and I will see you all next time. Ta-da!